Hello and welcome to this week's IGTV. Today I'm talking about how to offer emotional support that works. Like, there's nothing more heartbreaking than when you try and offer sincere emotional support to your teenager and then you get your head bitten off because they're like, what do you know? You're not talking to me. You don't have any idea. And in the moment you're like, ouch, was just trying to offer some emotional support for what you're going through, and that's what I get for it? Yeah, it hurts for sure. Because, okay, sorry, I'm going to straighten my camera here. I'm way too anal for that. Because when you are doing your best to support your teenager through a very difficult time, one of the most painful things is when they're coming at you because whatever you offered is not what they needed. Okay, so that's what I'm going to talk about today. How you can offer the emotional support for your teenager that they truly feel is valuable and meaningful so that you can connect even in their time of discomfort or pain rather than disconnect, which makes it even harder to navigate the relationship. My name is Allie Payne. I am a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach. I have been working with parents and teens for 15 years to help them end the painful disconnection, emotional blow-ups, stressful silences, and go from like being at your wit's end to creating healthy, lasting relationships built on trust and respect. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I am here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time talking about something to do with parenting teens and that relationship that seems so full of potholes and full of strife. So you find a little bit of ease. I hope today is going to offer some of those same tips. I do want to also acknowledge that today is Remembrance Day in Canada. It is Veterans Day in the United States. And generally, we pause for a few minutes at 11:11 a.m. in the 11th month on the 11th day to remember those who gave their lives so that we could be here having this conversation with incredible things like this technology and this phone I'm recording this on. So I just want to say a little acknowledgement about that. I will not be pausing at 11:11. I instead chose to do that time prior to coming on live today to acknowledge the freedoms that I have because of those who chose to go before. Okay, woo! We're talking all about emotions and I am in them right now. All right, this seems like something that I would like to think would be like super simple, but it's not. Offering effective emotional support for your teenager is quite often a reflection of what kind of emotional support did you receive in your home, in your family of origin. What did that look like? And whether or not it worked for you, it's likely what you are repeating with your teenager. Not because you're not intelligent, not because you don't care, but because that is the way that our brains are wired, which is to repeat what we know at a fundamental and unconscious level. As far as I know, this kind of stuff is still not taught in schools or university for that matter, maybe unless you took a psychology degree. So that's why I want to start talking about and giving airtime to what are the elements that occur in emotional support so that what you're offering to your teenager lands. You feel like you truly are being the loving and caring parent that I know that you already want to be, and that you create that connection even through that difficult time. Okay. Yet why is it not being taught in school? It is beyond me. I'm not kidding you. All right. So these are the three elements I'm going to address. Apparently, all right, internet paused and we're back. That was like a commercial break? I don't know. So there's three elements that often show up in all attempts, I think, to provide emotional support, particularly with parents and teens, but in lots of other relationships as well. And they are empathy, sympathy, and then codependence. So I'm going to unfold the three of those and show you where they overlap, where when we're not taught these elements, we don't tend to understand both the distinction and how we confuse one for the other. All right. Now, if you're a part of my parenting communities, I have a free parenting community and a private parenting community where I go live twice a month and do Q&As, and there's lots of resources in there. You will know that I stand for empathy. Empathy. My parenting communities are 100% about empathy first. And I have some very strict rules around what that looks like, so that my parenting communities that I operate, which you can find via the link in my bio, are safe, supportive, and judgment-free. And that's how we stay in empathy. So if you're in one of my parenting communities, you're going to understand this first little bit that I'm talking about. Let's talk about empathy. Now, empathy is an emotional connection tool that is probably the simplest, it's the easiest, fastest, but it's not really simple if you don't understand it. Easiest and fastest way to create connection with your teenager, but yet it's quite misunderstood. Empathy is one of the things I talk about in the second day of my live challenge, 5 days to a better relationship with your teen, which is coming up again January 10th. If you're not already in that, you can go to my website, alipayne.com. Under programs, there is a wait list, and you will be notified for the January 10th, 2022 5-day challenge. It's that important that I actually do an entire mini module on empathy. And every single parent that has taken that program with me, bar none, says that that particular tool is the one that has made the greatest impact to help them connect with their teenager, improve communication overall, lower conflict, and increase connection. Period is empathy. Okay, that's enough preamble. Let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so there's 4 dimensions to empathy. If I'm looking away, it's because I'm looking at my laptop. I want to make sure I have these notes here. So there's 4 dimensions to empathy. The first is perspective taking. Okay, now, actually, I want to dial back for a second. Empathy occurs in the emotional brain, somewhat unconsciously. We are born developing empathy. Like from the moment we're born, we start developing empathy as babies, okay, with our primary caregiver through unconscious interpretation of facial expressions, tone of voice. Like how many of you have ever talked to, like even an 8-week-old baby, if you yell or use a harsh tone, you can see it in their face. So their emotional brain is empathetically it's picking up on your physical cues, voice, tone, enunciation, all of those things. So we're born understanding empathy at a very simple level, but we don't actually learn true empathy because as a skill, as a relational skill, without some form of mentorship. Okay, so I want to say that. I did an article previously on why is my teenager so mean, and I talked all about empathy and some of the generational things are in there. If you're interested in that, just send me a DM that says, why is my teen so mean? And I'll send you the full article. Okay, so empathy has 4 dimensions. The first is perspective taking. This is about being willing and open to take someone else's perspective, to lean into their experience as they, sorry, I don't know why the internet is pausing. That leaning into someone's perspective and experience as they saw it in any particular experience, even if that has never happened to you. So I'm going to say that again. Perspective taking. It's being open, willing, and available to take someone else's, your teenager's perspective, or lean into their experience in any particular situation, even if you have never been in that experience. This doesn't mean leaning into the situation with your perspective or how you imagined you would have experienced it. Am I being clear here? Okay, that is the difference in perspective taking that is so critical, so critical. Now, in order to actually do perspective taking, there's a couple things that need to happen. You need to feel, okay, I'm sorry you guys, I don't know what's going on with the internet. I'm just gonna keep going. You need to feel secure enough in yourself that you understand that by taking someone else's perspective and leaning into what their experience may have been, that does not mean you have to give up your beliefs. It does not mean you have to change your beliefs. It does not mean that you are right and wrong, or your teenager is right or wrong. Nothing about empathy is about right or wrong. Empathy is simply about being open and willing to reach into yourself and find a vulnerable place that accesses something at least similar to what your teenager might be experiencing. That's it. You don't have to give up what you feel. You don't have to agree with what they feel. Okay? I cannot be clear enough. By being empathetic, you are not condoning bad behavior. You're not condoning a choice that you don't agree with. None of that has to do with empathy. And this is where we get caught up in it as a parent, because we're like, well, crap. If I'm all like empathetic with my teenager about them like having gotten caught drinking or getting arrested or something, then I'm saying that I think it's okay. No, you don't. No, you're not saying it's okay. You're just saying, yeah, that sucks. Yep, that would suck. Going to jail, wouldn't it? Yeah, that sucked getting put in the back of the cop car. Yeah, I bet that wasn't what you were planning. This is not about agreement or condoning. Okay? All right. The second part of dimension of empathy is suspending judgment. So that's kind of what I just talked about, okay? Suspending judgment. You have to be willing to suspend your judgment of another's feelings, of your teenager's feelings, and experience at least for a very short time. So it's all about that right-wrong thing that your teenager, if you have judgment that your teenager made a bad decision, well, that was a stupid choice. Why would I be empathetic with them? Like, what? Did they not think that the consequence was going to happen? I mean, come on. Okay, well, if you're coming from that position, which may be true, but if you are coming from that position, I guarantee you, you will not access empathy in a way that is going to connect and land with your teenager. This isn't about condoning. This isn't about boundaries. This isn't about disciplining, okay? This is simply about a way of emotionally supporting and understanding another person, your teenager, all right? You need to also be able to suspend judgment in that, again, if your teenager did something that was quite outside of your values and your beliefs, that doesn't mean you cannot be empathetic. You do not have to agree. But that does not mean that you are incapable of showing empathy, okay? Put it in the comments if this is making sense, that empathy is an emotional connection tool. It does not operate in black, white, legalistic, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, values, beliefs. It doesn't operate within that. It's outside of that. I hope that's making sense. All right. Here's why sympathy doesn't work. Okay, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, this is why sympathy doesn't work. Sympathy is a disconnection tool. Sympathy is full of judgment. Sympathy is full of judgment because it says, oh, honey, yeah, you made a really crappy choice, didn't you? In sympathy, I come across as righteous, and I am speaking from condescension in that place of, well, yeah, sucks to be you. I guess you just didn't think that through very well, did you? Yeah, it's very invalidating. It's very, very invalidating because when I come from righteousness and judgment, I'm not reaching into my own vulnerability to see what might be vulnerable about this for you. I'm really, really going in about, well, that was a stupid choice. You should have known better. What did you think was going to happen? I also come from, well, at least, which is a way of smearing over. Like, well, at least, this isn't going to be permanent on your criminal record. Well, at least, I'm still letting you live here and not kicking you out. Well, at least your brother is a good person and I don't have to deal with this with him. Like, well, at least it is, or by saying, well, that's not bad. What happened to me was, so that's comparative. As soon as you offer comparison, well, that's nothing. This is what happened to me. It's so, you're well past, because you know why? Now this is about right, wrong, which is comparison. This isn't about your teenager anymore. This is about you. This is about your agenda. It's about you being right. It's about them being wrong. And now that's where that righteous condescension kind of comes in. So we're only in the second dimension of empathy, which is often misunderstood with sympathy. And we're already off the rails. This is why it doesn't work as emotional support. Here's the other two key distinctions I want you to understand about empathy and sympathy. With empathy, I hold my teenager as fully capable and able to have a full range of human experience, which means even the super messy, crappy, hard feelings, they're totally capable and able to have those feelings. And I support them, but I don't need to rescue and save them. I hold them as able to have those feelings, and I'm with them, and I'm going to validate and empathize because they're okay. They're okay. And in sympathy, there's a story that in sympathy, I don't hold you as capable of having all of these feelings. And so I somehow need to take them on myself. Okay? So there's a difference, the distinction there in sympathy and empathy. And this is, again, I don't know where you ever... I didn't learn this until I spent a decade in personal development programs. And that's where I learned about sympathy and empathy. I didn't learn this at home. I certainly didn't learn this in school anywhere. And I skipped a lot of school, but I did not learn this in school. So if this isn't working for you and you're getting tripped up with your teenager, please do not beat yourself up. Okay? Please don't. I'm just delighted that you're here, and I would love if you share this video or you share it with other people so that they understand what true emotional support and connection looks like, so they understand the difference between empathy, sympathy, and codependence. Okay? All right. So the third element of empathy is emotional boundaries. This one's key. Remember I said, actually, I'll go back to that. Emotional boundaries. So understanding that you are not at threat or risk by taking someone else's perspective, and doing so doesn't make you right or wrong. So I've already covered those points. I'm not going to go into them again. But this is the emotional boundary says this: I'm okay even if you're not okay. Or if you're not okay, I'm okay. That's the emotional boundary that is your work, not your teenager's work. That's your work to model that I hold you, let's say you're my teenager. I hold you as fully capable of having the full range of human emotional experience, even when it's really crappy, hard, and heavy. And I love and care about you. But I'm okay. I am still an okay person. It doesn't make me cold and selfish, much as I'm sure you've been told. And that your job as a parent is not to go in there and rescue and take it on for them. Here is why. The minute you go in and rescue your teenager because you don't feel comfortable with them, like you feel like they can't manage this. Oh my gosh, they can't manage this. I mean, I'm their parent. It's my job to go in with my sword drawn on my horse and rescue my teenager because that makes me a noble and good parent. No, it doesn't. What happens is your teenager learns they are incapable of handling messy, hard, heavy emotions. They learn they are incapable of being with or in heavy, hard, messy emotions. They learn that when those emotions show up, they build anxiety, they can build depression, numbness. They start to suppress or abandon that part of themselves because you are sending a message that those emotions are not okay. They're not okay. Because when they feel them, you're not okay. So they should not feel those. The best thing that you can do for your children is to hold them as capable in those heavy, messy, and hard emotions so they build confidence. They build confidence to trust themselves that they will not burst into flames or die if they're having those feelings. That you normalize, yes, they're hard, heavy, messy, yucky, sure, I know you don't want to be there. And they are a normal part of a full human experience. And I love you there, and I trust that you will know what to do, and I am here with you. You are not alone. And I'm okay, even if you're not okay. Yes, yeah, I know this is a very toxic cultural message about wanting well for your children and what that looks like. Here's the kicker. Okay, we're talking about emotional boundaries here. This is where codependence kicks in. Codependence lacks emotional boundaries. So you cannot offer empathy without an emotional boundary. Okay, I didn't make up this science, all right? Science is already there. The third dimension of empathy is an emotional boundary. So if you're not okay, I'm not okay. So I should rescue you because I feel so uncomfortable the way that you are so uncomfortable. I need to charge in there with sword drawn on my horse and fix you so that you feel better, so then I feel better and then I'm okay. That is called codependence. You are not a reflection of your teenager. Your teenager's emotional wellness and behavior is not a reflection of your level of great parenting. There are plenty of scientific studies that have taken teenagers out of horrible, awful situations who were born with higher levels of natural resilience and were wildly successful. In what you might deem as terrible parenting, they were great. And then there are children with great parents who were born with some mental health challenges, lower levels of resilience, because we're not all born with the same. And they struggle through their life, even though they have great parents. Does that make them a crappy parent? Can we just stop it's a very wide cultural message that however your children are defines your level of parenting. It's untrue. If you want your teenager to learn healthy emotional boundaries so that they so they are less likely to get caught up into narcissistic, toxic, emotionally abusive relationships, you might want to model emotional boundaries for them. Because by you modeling, I love you, it is hard and heavy and it's messy, I am here with you. You are not alone and I am fully okay because what's yours is yours and what's mine is mine. When you model that, someone else in their life is less likely to get their hooks into your teenager by saying, I'm a giant hot mess. You need to help me carry this because you're better at it than me. See, pump them up first. So you help me carry this. You be responsible for my feelings. And P.S., when I'm really sad, it's going to be your job to cheer me up. And when I'm really angry, it's your job to solve my problems. And if I'm really happy, it's your job to keep that going. Not a healthy emotional relationship, right? So if you want your teenager to build healthy emotional relationships, number 3 element of empathy is one of the best ways to do that. Build emotional boundaries, because that's where codependence comes in. Codependence is about being a reflection of someone. And I caught myself in it this weekend. So let me give you an example. I was totally codependent. 100%. I got no judgment about anything. That's like, welcome to the imperfect parenting club. I honestly have just started looking into my own codependence, and my husband and I are doing this work in the last year. It's quite new for me. And realizing that as a child, I was raised where my behavior was responsible for my parents' emotional state. So if my parents were pissy, aggressive, or angry, and I came from an emotionally and somewhat physically abusive home, that was my fault. There must have been something I did, and they told me repeatedly, that what I did made them angry. They wouldn't have been in such a bad mood if it wasn't for me. They wouldn't have been late for this if it wasn't for me. They would have had a better time if it wasn't for my behavior. So I was constantly told that I was responsible for their feelings. Do you guys get where I'm going here? Please tell me I'm not alone in this. So I was raised to be hyper aware, plus it was abusive. So I was constantly walking on eggshells, excuse me, never knowing when my parents were going to blow and I was going to get hit or like the emotional daggers were going to start flying. I never knew when that was going to happen. So I was always walking on eggshells, doing everything I could do to suppress what was true for me, to manage their feelings, to avoid striking the dragon. Yeah? And so I didn't grow up at all with healthy emotional boundaries, had no friggin' idea. I was a completely codependent octopus 8-arm girlfriend, so emotionally needy. This weekend I caught myself in this. Okay, so I went to Whistler, BC with my husband. He went there to work and I work online. So I'm like, okay, I'll go with you. Road trip. Yay! So last week I did this from Whistler, if you were watching my IGTVs, which I hope you were. And I caught myself, like it was a house, there was a whole bunch of people in a house, and that's just cheaper for them than hotels. So we were staying with other people who I loved, and I had so much fun. Like I was peopling so hard. I was in extrovert land. But my biggest concern was whether or not they liked me. Seriously. And I said it to my husband probably 3 times. Do your friends like me? I hope they like me. Do you think they like me? And I was like, frig frack. Stop it, Allie. I my value is not determined by what someone else believes about me. Only I have the right to determine my value as a human. Was I being respectful? Yes, in every way that I thought I could, I was being respectful. Was I trying to earn my way to have them like me? Yeah, a little bit I was. But I never felt resentful about anything I did. So I wouldn't say I crossed my emotional boundary that way. Was I trying to be liked? Yeah, a little bit. Now that's a little bit of an extrovert thing. But do you see what I'm saying? I was lacking my own emotional boundaries this weekend, knowing that I'm okay, even if someone else doesn't like me. I'm not for everybody. That's okay. But that doesn't determine my value, you see. All right, so emotional boundaries are critical, and you cannot offer empathy if you don't have an emotional boundary, because you will go into rescuing and fixing, which is more about soothing your feelings. It's not about your teenager anymore. And when you do that, you completely circumnavigate them having the opportunity to sit in uncomfortable feelings, to navigate their way through and out in a way that works for them, not you. And P.S., it may not happen on your timeline. And that's the crappy part, because as a parent, of course, primally, you want your child to feel better immediately. You want to be able to cheer them up. And when they were little, that might have worked. But if you keep trying that as a teenager, you are teaching them that those really uncomfortable emotions are bad and wrong. They should abandon and suppress them because they see how upset it makes you. Not about them anymore. Okay? Empathy is all about the other person. It's not about you. It's about the other person. Okay? All right. Number 4, which I'm just going to touch on, and I said quickly in the beginning, number 4, the fourth dimension of empathy is physical cues. And this is about recognizing emotions through body language, words, tone, without having to be told. So this is a lot of the processing that your emotional unconscious brains does. And this is what I said, we are born learning empathy as a baby. We're born learning it. We pick up on cues, even in the infant brain. You are picking up on cues of your parents, whoever raised you, their tone of voice, their body language, all of the thousands of nuanced muscles in your face. When you hold a baby, that baby knows if you're super tense and angry, and they know if you are calm and relaxed. So the emotional body is a way of offering empathy. So if you do not understand someone's physical cues, which is part of the issue for teenagers because they're literally growing up with a screen, and I don't say that as any judgment as a parent either, they're growing up learning relationships via a screen, and you cannot see the fourth dimension of empathy on a screen. You cannot understand how what you just said to me via keyboard courage landed for me because you can't see me. And our kids are being raised in keyboard courage. This is the era that they're being raised in. They can drop heat like nobody else because they don't see the physical, their unconscious brain doesn't notice all of the unconscious nuances in my face to notice how what they said landed. So please stop trying to do relationship with your teenager online. I know that's literally impossible, but we have agreements in our house that texting is for quick communication. It's for verifying logistics. But if we're going to have a conversation, we're not going to do it via text. So please stop, because you are not supporting your teenager to build the skill of empathy, which they're only going to get so far with it until they're finally taught it. So I want to answer this question. What's the difference between rescuing and trying to support them through it? It's twofold. Number 1, do you hold your teenager as fully capable and able to sit in these uncomfortable feelings until they decide they're done to navigate their way out? And number 2, is this more about you not feeling so uncomfortable, or you being worried about the story that this makes that you're a bad parent? Because the minute it's about you, you are rescuing. If this is purely about loving and accepting them where they are at, supporting means letting them know they're not alone. You're not alone in this. I promise I'm here with you. Okay, rescuing or fixing is the moment you're trying to pull them out of that before they have decided they're ready. That's your agenda, your timeline. It's about you soothing you, not them. Okay? And only you know the answer to that. All right, so I want to just recap for a second. Offering effective emotional support is empathy. Empathy is a connection tool with 4 dimensions: perspective taking, suspending judgment, emotional boundaries, and being able to read physical cues. You are born with empathy, but you do not have it as a developed skill. That happens over time, and it's particularly important in the adolescent brain. Okay? Sympathy is often what we are offering, thinking we're offering empathy because we're not taught the distinction. We don't understand these. Sympathy goes off the tracks at number 2, judgment. Sympathy is full of judgment, righteousness, condescension, comparisons. So sympathy does not work. And then codependency, which is all about fixing and rescuing, and goes off the rails at dimension number 3, which is emotional boundaries. All right. So if you are looking to offer emotional support that connects with your teenager through really tough times, rather than disconnects, then you're going to want to focus on building these 4 pillars, 4 dimensions of empathy, and practicing if you notice yourself falling into sympathy, which is judgment, and codependence, which is rescuing and fixing. Okay? It takes practice. Call yourself out on it. Oh, I'm sorry. I caught myself going there. Let me try that again. Ask for grace, ask for forgiveness, apologize if you get it wrong. Practice. I just posted a video, a couple about empathetic statements and validation. You can practice those over and over. And if you're really unsure, I do this as a whole evening, and day number 2 of my 5-day challenge. The live challenge is coming up January 10th, 2022. So if you're interested in joining me on that, if you go to my website, alipayne.com, under programs, there is a wait list, and if you join that, you will be notified when registration opens for my next live 5-day challenge, where empathy statements are an entire night that we cover. And to this day is one of the most impactful things that almost 1,000 parents have done just this year, and told me that's made the biggest difference in their relationship with their teenager to improve communication, lower conflict, and increase connection. So understanding emotional support is critical. All right. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. I really appreciate you joining me. Again, I'm here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific here on Instagram. These videos also head on over to YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you in my free parenting community, which you can find via the link in my bio. It takes a village. I will see you there. And if not, next week. Bye.